It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Let's bring in Fran Fraschilla. He works for ESPN and also for us here at Westwood One Sports. You'll hear Fran on the coverage of the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight in Houston coming up next weekend, the Thursday, Saturday matchups. And Fran joins Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Fran, we were just talking about Miami. What did you think of their overall season and the fact that they had to play in the first four and now they made it to the field of 64?
Well, I had deja vu, Bleck. 31 years ago, my Manhattan College team dominated the regular season, lost in our MAC championship game in double overtime, and we had to wait for a week for the fate of the basketball committee. And when we were selected as an at-large team from a mid-major league, not the MAC, but the other MAC, the MAAC, the MAAC, we wound up beating Oklahoma, by the way, coached by my good friend Kelvin Sampson, after a week of consternation from all the media about whether we deserved to get in. So I was not surprised last night by Miami. I thought they should have been. I can't believe they were in a first four game. They did not play a tough schedule, but tough relative. But the MAC is a really solid mid-major league, and for them to go undefeated virtually the whole year, I thought it was a little disrespectful, quite frankly, that they did play in the first four. But all is well because they proved last night by handling SMU well that they certainly deserve to be one of the 64.
You mentioned Kelvin Sampson. They're in a South region that a lot of people think that they can get out of and that Houston can get out of and get into the Final Four. They've got Florida in there and Nebraska in there. What do you think of Houston getting back into the Final Four and possibly getting back to another national championship this season?
Well, the interesting thing, Abdalla, is that they're going to be, because of their 2 seed, if they handle Oklahoma City, they'll be back home in Houston, as you guys know, at the Toyota Center, which is, and I spent a lot of time covering them this year, as you guys know. It's about 2.5 miles from the Fertitta Center on campus. So that's a great home court advantage. And I'm a huge Kelvin Sampson fan, as I just mentioned. But, I'm a little concerned about them. Illinois is a tough 3 seed. Florida is a team that is very, very similar, almost identical to a team that gave them trouble this year, Arizona, with the big guys inside, one of the best front lines in the country. So I'm a big believer in Kelvin. It's a little bit different team, not having a Jamal Shed 2 years ago or an LJ Cryer. I love their freshmen. The fact that they're home, this is not going to be a given for them. I think they're going to have some tough matchups, assuming they get out of Oklahoma City, which I think they will.
Fran Fraschilla joining Bleck Abdalla to preview the tournament as things will get started in just moments. The NCAA tournament here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Fran, one of the big stories that I've paid attention to here at the end of the season has been what has happened this season with St. John's. They opened the tournament facing off against Northern Iowa. They're 28-6. I think a lot of people expect them to at least advance out of this weekend, but then they could face off against Duke. How do you see St. John's path here in the tournament?
Well, here's the interesting thing, Bleck. They have one of the maybe five greatest coaches in the history of the game. I mean, for whatever you think of Rick Pitino, and I know Rick well. We're not best friends, but I have incredible respect for his coaching. And they don't have a point guard, but they have everything else. They are a great defensive team. They have a great player in Zubi Ejiofor, the big East Player of the Year. By the way, a transfer from Kansas, and that very well could be a great second-round matchup with KU and Darren Peterson. I have tremendous belief in Rick Pitino as a coach. He's done it so many times at so many different places that I think that's going to be a problematic game for Duke if they meet up. I personally think UConn's going to come out of that region because I think Danny Hurley's team's going to play with a chip on their shoulder. But I would never discount a guy with so much tournament experience, and the fact that he's got national championships on his resume.
Staying in that East region there, how much of a treat would it be for college basketball fans to get a Sweet 16 with Duke against St. John's, Michigan State against UConn? Just all of those coaches there. You've got Kansas in the round before that.
Yep.
This region is absolutely stacked. What do you think of the way the committee put all these teams there?
Well, I don't think they say they don't do it on purpose, and I do tend to believe them. But it is ironic that there's 6. I think there's 6 coaches who in that region, if I'm not mistaken, that have coached in the Final Four. So if you're, and I always say guys that have all that tournament experience, they really do have an advantage in March because they know how to, regulate the week, leading up to the games, the preparation, the rest,
Right,
the
right.
travel. So but nobody's at an advantage in that region because they all have experience in that regard. I just think it's a great regional. I think it's going to be at the Cap One Center in D.C. I'll be in Houston, unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, because I'm excited to be in Houston. But if I wasn't in Houston, that would be I might even get on a plane and go to Washington, D.C. And just a little side note, my son does coach for the Wizards, so I probably could get good tickets. But no, it's going to be it's going to be a great regional there. And the committee, I think, kudos to them if accidentally they put all these great programs together.
Yeah, and Fran Fraschilla joining us. He'll be on the call of the games in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight in Houston coming up next weekend for Westwood One Sports. Fran, in the South region, there are a few teams that are pretty interesting. One being Nebraska, coached by Fred Hoiberg. And then also the other team that we were pointing out yesterday was Illinois. Illinois has been very up and down this season. In the region overall, in the South, you have Florida, you have Nebraska, Illinois. Vandy is a team that a lot of metrics point to as a very good basketball team. And then obviously Houston. What do you think of the South region overall?
Solid, no question. Like Illinois is a mystery team because, as you pointed out, Bleck, they've been up and down. But when you look at them on paper, and I've actually started to prepare, I know Florida and Houston really well because I've covered them this year. But I just started anticipating that we might have Illinois in that Sweet 16. And, I mean, they're loaded offensively, and they've got size. They've got great guard play. This kid, Keaton Wagler's come out of nowhere. He'll be probably a top 10, top 12 pick. You mentioned Wisconsin, dangerous team. They gave Michigan all they could handle, right? I'll tell you a sneaky game is I wouldn't sleep on St. Mary's to give Houston a problem in the second round. They're not exactly built like Arizona, but they do have a 7-1 center. And, that's a fun region. I expect Florida to come out of that region, but certainly some really good basketball coming out. And by the way, you guys probably already know this. My good friend Freddie Hoiberg at Nebraska has had an incredible season, but here's the history. Nebraska Cornhuskers have never won an NCAA tournament game.
Yeah, and they look to try to win today, and if they can advance, they would maybe face Vandy or McNeese.
Fran, we've got them going to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, in our bracket. So we've got them winning a few games in the tournament this year, and Hoiberg going fine. We're broadcasting out of Chicago, so we're very familiar with Fred Hoiberg here in Chicago.
Yes, yeah, no question. But you know what? I have another good friend who coaches at Troy, and as you got, Scott Cross is a tremendous coach. And keep in mind that there is going to be a crazy upset somewhere in the first round. I don't know what it's going to be. It could be VCU over North Carolina without Caleb Wilson. It could be High Point. It could be, Hofstra playing against an undermanned Alabama team without Aiden Holloway with the off-the-court stuff. But going to be an upset. If I knew where it was, guys, I would call Brent Musburger, my buddy, and fly right to Vegas and lay a wager. But as I told my niece yesterday, I said, you're better off picking mascots and colors.
Sure.
Fran, you also do a great job of analyzing how these players are going to translate to the NBA. A.J. DeMonsa for BYU is projected to be one of the top picks, if not the number one pick in the NBA draft. How far can he take BYU in this tournament?
Well, I think the problem is obviously no Richie Saunders, right? And what people don't realize, and of course I cover the Big 12 all year, is they're without three guys. Actually, they're without five guys that are redshirting, right? Well, Richie's not going to redshirt because his eligibility's up. But they have a bunch of guys that have been hurt, Dawson Baker, Nate Pickens. These are guys that people don't know about, but they're all out for the year, and it really hurts their depth. But you know something? AJ's had a phenomenal year. To his credit, he brings the energy every single night. So with him and Rob Wright, the third, they've got two outstanding scorers. And, wouldn't discount them getting a couple rounds deep, maybe to the Sweet. I think a Sweet 16 for BYU would be a fabulous season. given the devastating injury they suffered to Saunders late in the year.
Fran, besides DeBonsa, is there anyone else who's going to go at the top of the NBA draft that you are interested in seeing how they perform in the tournament to see if it rises their stock as we head towards the end of the NBA season and the college season here?
Well, there are, Bleck. I'll tell you, like I've as I've said, and I've talked to people in the media this week, when it comes to the NBA draft, I'd say 75% of the evaluation of these kids has already been done. You've seen a Darius Acuff, you've seen Kingston Flemings, DeBonsa, Peterson, Boozer.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, this is like the NCAA tournament is like the extra credit question on a final exam. You take the exam and then the professor says, hey, we're going to give you a bonus question to help you with your grade. So no question that you got to be worried about recency bias. But having said that, let's take Walter Clayton Jr. last year. As he entered the NCAA tournament at Florida, I mean, I think most NBA teams projected him as a, solid second-round pick, maybe early second. And the way he played over 6 games and winning the title, he boosted his stock into the first round. So there's definitely that possibility. And I'll take a guy like Acuff, for example. I mean, two months ago, he was considered a top 15 pick. Now people are talking about him as a top 5 pick because of the way he played at the end of the season. And a guy like that, who knows? I don't think the top 3 is set necessarily. So a guy like Kingston Flemings or Nate Ament at Tennessee or certainly Acuff can help their stock.
Thank you, Fran. We really appreciate you joining us, and we'll be listening to you on Westwood One Sports. We appreciate it.
Happy to do it, guys. Great to be on.